Good afternoon, CFM. Welcome to another week of training. This is our next to last week before we do our max out week, so expect that coming up in the near future. Next week will be our max outs, but it will only be the primary lifts minus the deadlift. So we offset the deadlift from our other lifts by 3 weeks, and that allows the body to recover, and it keeps us from overloading the nervous system as well as joints, ligaments, tendons, etc. In our max out phase. So ideally we get better lifts on both of those. The big one is the squat and the other big one is the deadlift. We'll get better results out of both of those if we spread them out a little bit. Okay, so that's our foray into what we're doing this week. So everything here will be a lead up to those heavy lifts next week. And so at the end of the week, you should feel not as beat up as you normally do on a normal, like super high intensity week of training, because we are front loading all of our work on this week, and we're gonna kind of taper off as we go towards the end of the week, all right? So for today, I wanna start off with, we're gonna do our Romanian deadlifts. We're gonna do our warm up for that. So 2 rounds through, 10 calories, your choice, road bike or ski. Then we get some lateral leg swing in so you can lean into a post. To do that, it would be better like a forward reverse leg swing. You don't need much balance for, but a lateral leg swing, you definitely will want to have your hands holding onto something for it. Then we'll get some band Romanian deadlifts. This is mimicking the exact movement that we're going to do in the workout. So remember, hips up high, the knees stay bent, but just very slightly. And then at the top, I'm still hitting that same lockout, positive lockout, squeezing the shoulders, squeezing the butt, squeezing the abs. So I make a nice stable foundation underneath my shoulders there as I'm holding that weight. Next one is child pose arm raises. So this is just to loosen up the shoulders and get our T-spine opened. So I get into my child pose, and then from here, I'm raising one arm at a time. So I'm engaging the muscles on the backside of the shoulders that will help to open up my chest and my thoracic spine. And then the last one is just a 15-second squat stretch, so you can just rock right back into that. So we're loosening up the hips, ankles, and just getting comfortable in that bottom position of the squat. When we get our bar out, so Romanian deadlift, we want to be set up off the ground, somewhere below the hips and above the knees. So this is set up so it's right about the middle of my quads, so that I can pick it up with a relatively short motion and take a short step backward and then perform my Romanian deadlifts. And where we're at in the strength training cycle is we're at the moderate volume phase, because if you remember, we're counting down. So this is the 2nd out of 6 weeks. So that means next week will be the 3rd out of 6 weeks, and at the end of it, we do our max out. So this one is our medium volume, whereas the other things we'll do this week will be much lower in volume. So we'll start about 40% for 14 reps, and then we're moving down to 8 reps at 70%. After each set, we have a superset. The first one is an interesting exercise called a single leg deadlift airplane. So we're going to use hand support for this. So I want your hands to go onto your bar, and we're going to go into the single leg deadlift position, and then we're just going to practice rotating the hip and feeling what the hip feels like at different positions in the single leg deadlift. Because the number one thing that we see on single leg deadlifts is I hinge forward and then I stand back up tall, and wherever my hips go is just wherever is convenient or wherever feels good. But a lot of times that means that we are opening or externally rotating our hip when we are doing our single leg deadlifts, which is not what we want to do to get the most out of that exercise. So I'm gonna take my hands and put them on top of my bar, and then I'm gonna kick my leg out behind me and kind of mimic that bottom of the single leg deadlift position. And from this static position, I'm going to open my hip. Notice how my foot is now pointed horizontal to the floor, and then I'm going to close my hip like that, so now my foot is pointed back at the ground. And I want you to feel the only thing that's moving is my leg that's planted and my pelvis, and those two things are rotating. So my pelvis is rotating down, so now it's horizontal, rotating up, so now it's perpendicular to the ground. I'll do that 5 reps on each leg. So then I'll switch, take my other leg, kick it way out straight behind me, open, and then close, right? So we're feeling that rotation. So the goal is, when I say on a single leg deadlift that I want your hips to be rotated into the ground, what I mean is I don't want them twisted out like that as I reach down. I want to be twisted in. And that mimics the movement of the regular deadlift a little bit better, helps to stretch and lengthen the glute med, which is one of our important hip stabilizing muscles, okay? All right, and then the last one is our single leg curl up. This is just a core exercise. So I'm planting my hands underneath my torso. One leg is tucked up to my butt, and then I'm just pulling my shoulder blades up off the ground and floating that heel, and then laying back down. Pull up off the ground, float the heel, and then relax back down. So my hands are supporting and extending my back, pushing my lumbar away from the ground in this position. And as I pull my shoulder blades up off the ground, I'm re-neutralizing my lower back. Okay, so my abs have to engage in order to get back to the neutral position. So this one starts in extension and finishes in neutral, and then holds there for a second and then goes back to extension. All right, when we finish all of our deadlifts and accessory stuff, we're gonna go outside for a quick 7-round workout. This one should be fast, it should be explosive, and it should be very tiring for the legs. So we're gonna say 3, 2, 1, go. You're gonna push the sled across the parking lot one direction with the medium weight, so that's 2 plates, and then 1 plate. When you finish that, you're gonna do a 200-meter run, come back. When you finish the 200-meter run, you're going to do 3 loaded jumping squats. So I'm gonna pick up my kettlebell. We can have these outside. So loaded jump, 1, 2, 3, and then set my kettlebell down, don't drop them please, and then 7 more jumping squats with no weight on it, okay? And that is it, 7 rounds for time. Hope you guys have a great one, and I'll see ya tomorrow.